And here in New York, both Albany and Newburgh City have joined the call. New York City should be the biggest and next city to make the unequivocal call for a ceasefire and stand on the right side of history.
Right. Yep.
History demands that we act now, and that we act together. New York City must be loud and clear. Cease fire now.
Yes.
Yes. Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine! And for our first speaker, I would like to introduce Sumaya Awood from the Adala Justice Project.
As we stand here today, Palestinians in Gaza are being indiscriminately bombed. They're being starved to death. They're dying of dehydration. Babies are dying because they don't have formula and medication. The most basic things to survive. And Israel is a war tactic to starve them to death, to bomb them to death. They are dying in the hundreds every single day. And make no mistake, our government is funding this death.
Shame.
Our government is openly and proudly supporting this war machine. No one is spared. No one is spared by Israel's bombs. Not doctors and medics, not NICU babies. No one is spared. Not journalists who are unable to report on what is happening because they are being killed off one by one after the other. They bomb the records with the names of Palestinians killed so that we can't read every name, so we can't remember every single life, every single future that Israel has taken from us. This would not be possible without the U.S. support. Our government has the power to put an end to this genocide, and instead it's choosing to actively support it on every level. Our federal government, our state government, and certainly our city government, which is why we're here today. Any representative who still refuses to call for a ceasefire, to call for an end to genocide, do you understand what that means? Do you understand that you are waist deep in Palestinian blood? Do you comprehend the fact that babies are being starved to death? Babies are being starved to death, and that is on you. That is on every single representative who still chooses to be silent. Do you understand that your silence is complicity in genocide? Genocide! It's a genocide. And that's on you. We've heard city council members say, well, what does this have to do with us here in New York? Isn't our purpose to focus on New Yorkers? What a shame that that's your response to being told stop supporting a genocide. We are New Yorkers here. There are tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers coming out every day, every week, from the elementary school kids to the high schoolers, to the college students, to the workers, the immigrants, the new refugees in the city, and they're all saying, cease fire now, because it's a basic demand. It's the lowest demand. You shouldn't need phone calls and emails to remind you that you should oppose a genocide. You should oppose ethnic cleansing because it's ethnic cleansing. You shouldn't need a single phone call to your office to tell you to stand against mass murder.
That's right.
What we do here today matters. What our city council does matters. It has reverberations across the country and frankly across the world. This is one of the wealthiest cities in the world, and every year our city, our state sends hundreds of thousands of dollars, subsidized tax dollars, to support the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians. Our city council has a responsibility to speak out. It's not just a moral or ethical stance or obligation. It's a choice to do what's in the best interest of millions of New Yorkers, of working class New Yorkers, of immigrant New Yorkers, of refugee New Yorkers. Ceasefire is the bare minimum. What you say behind closed doors doesn't matter. You have to be loud and outspoken. You took public office to represent people. You took public office to assume the responsibility to speak out against injustice, not to be paid to be silent. If you can't utter the word ceasefire in the face of 30,000 Palestinians murdered, if you can't utter the word ceasefire in the face of NICU babies rotting in their beds because of Israel's war machine, then I ask you, where is your humanity? Has Israel robbed you of that too? Wake up! Wake up and look at the face of every single Palestinian murdered, of every single life and future that has been robbed by Israel's war machine. Look at them and let that penetrate your soul, because your continued silence, your continued complicity will haunt you. It will haunt you for the rest of your life. It's high time that people who purportedly represent us as New Yorkers take a stance against genocide. And that's why we're here, to say ceasefire now, and not temporary. Permanent ceasefire now.
Thank you so much. Give it up for Samaya. We want to call up next, and very thankful to call up our next speakers, Council Member Shahana Hanif, followed by Rita Joseph. We are also joined by Alexa Aviles, Chiose, Lincoln Wrestler, Tiffany Caban, Brianna Sanchez, Natasha Williams, and Crystal Hudson. Come on in. Come on, we got space. Thank you to my colleagues. I can't tell if this is.
Try again. No, it just went off.
Is this on?
No.
Yellow. Okay, this is on now. Yeah, this is on now. It's a little spotty, but we're okay. So first, I just want to give a shout out to my colleagues who are here. Councilmember Tiffany Caban. Councilmember Lincoln Wrestler. Councilmember Chiose. Councilmember Crystal Hudson. Councilmember Rita Joseph. Councilmember Pierina Sanchez. Councilmember Alexa Aviles. Councilmember Natasha Williams was also here. And we have all called for a permanent ceasefire. Some of my colleagues who have also called for a ceasefire are not here, but they will be joining later on for the vigil. Some of my colleagues who are standing here with me will also be speaking after me. First and foremost, I'm a constituent from Brooklyn.
Yes, Brooklyn's in the house.
And I am angry. And I am deeply ashamed of my reps, none of whom have called for a ceasefire. None of whom, from downstate to upstate, have called for a ceasefire. It is a damn shame. I can't be the only one to call for a ceasefire as the lone Muslim woman elected official. As the first Muslim woman elected to the city council. I repeat, as the first. I am alone in that building. And while I have my anti-war colleagues It has been extremely isolating and lonely at this time to speak out loud against a genocide under our watch. We should not have to convince American politicians that there is a genocide.
That's right.
It should not be up to our constituents to call us and say, you must speak out against a genocide. And while it has been alone, I have been alone, I am proud to have been grounded by movement leaders, Muslim, Palestinian leaders on the ground, many of whom who are here, who've been a part of this fight since October 7th, organizing day in, day out, the same ones who are fighting for a stronger New York City, coming to our rallies for affordable housing, gender justice, immigrant equity, you name it, these are the same people. The same people fighting for a stronger, more representative democracy. So I won't be stifling how you lead us. We won't be stifling your tactics because there is a genocide. There are taxpayer monies going into funding the death, the murder of thousands of Palestinians every single day. As elected officials, we have the responsibility, the obligation to have the moral courage to call for what we know is right, a permanent ceasefire. A permanent ceasefire is what brings home all hostages.
Right.
All hostages. Woo! We can and must do this now. Now what comes next? Because I know this is the largest gathering we've seen to date in front of City Hall, and I thank you for that. Ramadan's coming up. We gotta boycott the mayor's iftar.
That's right.
Yes.
You're not gonna let my colleagues go to the mosques in our neighborhoods if they've not called for a permanent ceasefire. They are not allowed. They're not coming to our stadiums for Eid prayer. They are not allowed. We are voters. We participate in this democracy. We are civic leaders. We saw what happened in Michigan last night.
Right.
We've been told that every vote counts. We know what that means. So I hope that my colleagues will see that we exist, that we are grieving, that we have demands, and that calling for a permanent ceasefire is the bare minimum. The bare minimum. Thank you all so much for being here, for standing for peace, for being against genocide, for being pro-peace. And now I'm going to pass it to my colleague, Councilmember Ressler.
Let's give it up for Shahada Hanif. Over 30,000, nearly, approximately
something like 30,000 people, civilians, have been killed by the brutality of the Israeli government. Indiscriminate violence has upended and destroyed life in Gaza for millions of people. It's been nearly 5 months since the horrible attacks by Hamas. And we do, of course, need to make sure that every single hostage is brought home safely. But there is no possible rationale for the ongoing, indiscriminate, horrific violence against the people of Gaza. It must stop. It is absolutely shameful. And let's be honest, we know this Israeli government. We knew immediately how they would respond. The viciousness, the brutality that they have caused in response to the horrible attacks by Hamas has been to a scale that is absolutely indefensible. I am a Jewish person, and I have heard from literally thousands of constituents about what is happening in the Middle East.
Genocide. Say genocide.
And I will tell you, I'm a local neighborhood politician who spends most of my time worrying about the trash getting picked up and holding the police accountable and making sure our schools are well funded. I'm not an expert in international affairs. But it doesn't take an expert to understand that tens of thousands of civilians are being killed, and it is wrong. And we must demand that our government do everything in its power to stop it. And so I want to thank each and every one of you for being out here today, for organizing, for not stopping, for continuing to put the pressure on all of the places it needs to go. And this city council needs to stand up. Our members of Congress damn well need to stand up. Our members of the U.S. Senate need to make their voices heard. We have an enormous amount of power in New York City and New York State. We need our leaders to reflect the demands of our communities. And that is what you all represent here today, and I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I'm going to kick it over to my good friend, Councilmember Rita Joseph.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Councilmember Rita Joseph, representing the 40th Council District. I'm a mom of 4 boys, and when I watch those videos of 12,000 children, and I taught for 2 decades, and children of all backgrounds. So this breaks my heart today to see the ongoing genocide of people in Gaza. I'm calling on all of my colleagues, state, federal, city, to call for an immediate ceasefire. Not high, but immediate ceasefire to stop bombing Gaza. Let's find a better way. Bring home the hostages, yes, I agree. However, we cannot continue to erase generations of young people, generations of mothers, generations of fathers. It cannot go on. So today I'm standing as the education chair alone and calling on all to do the right thing. No more. We said no more war, and I'm losing. But we cannot lose. I have hope that we will have a resolution and we will save the people of Gaza. So I'm calling again loud and clear from the mighty borough of Brooklyn, a ceasefire immediately. Thank you. And I'm calling my next colleague, Councilmember Alexis Avila.
From Borinquen to New York City to Sunset Park, our people have called for a permanent and immediate ceasefire, almost immediately, to when this started. I ask my colleagues who reflexively support this government's policy of providing giant sums, billions of dollars, in specifically military aid. We are not talking about our government investing in civic society, civil society. Our dollars are explicitly for the use of bombs. What have we gained from that investment? And I'm going to tell you what our taxpayers, and you have heard it already, what our dollars are funding. We have over 30,000 Palestinians that have died. 12,000 children. As a mother, you have seen the photographs of dust-filled children clad in blood, shaking from the shock and the horror that they are experiencing with our taxpayer dollar. This is an abomination. I ask everyone to find your humanity, to look at those children and say, not on our dime, not in our time. I don't care where the kids come from. They are children.
That's right.
What are we doing? We have raised communities that have lived in for generations. Our taxpayer dollars have turned communities into dust. We have blown up hospitals, educational buildings, everything. For what? This is not a trick question. We should not be confused. And if you are confused, you have bigger issues to handle. So I implore all of my colleagues, up and down, city, federal, state, on my block, to stand with permanent ceasefire, to let everyone know that until the hostages are free, until Palestine is free, we will not be free. So in the name of Borinque and all my people, we stand with you. We stand for peace. And we want permanent ceasefire. Violence begets violence. Let's dig into our humanity and do what is right, not on our dime. Thank you.
Wow. I just want to again just thank our council members for joining us. And that was Councilmember Hanif, Alexa Aviles, Chio Say, Sandy Nurse, Lincoln Wrestler. And next I would like to actually bring up Councilmember Tiffany Caban.
Hey all. My name is Tiffany Caban. I am council member in the 22nd District in Queens. Queens showing up hard in the face of a genocide. I think about the fact that before I became a council member, I was a public defender for almost a decade. And so I will be one of the first people to admit that I am not an expert in the situation in Gaza. And so my message is for folks who have felt the same way that I have, because when I have that creeping thought, I'm reminded again and again and again of the words of Angela Davis, who said, "You do not have to be an expert. People will tell you that you don't know enough, but you do not have to be an expert to be in solidarity with a liberation struggle."
That's right. That's right.
We know what is wrong, we know what is righteous, and we value humanity, period. And so here's what I do know from my life and my experiences and my career, and it's that the safety that we all deserve does not come from systems of punishment and control. They come from systems of care and compassion. And so whether we are talking about here in New York City, where we need to move away from the power, the control, the violence of Rikers Island and the NYPD, and towards systems of care and compassion like social housing and infrastructure, life-saving, healing infrastructure, I believe that between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea, that means shifting away from apartheid and occupation and towards equal rights and democracy and economic security for everyone.
That's right.
And so I am here to stand and say very loudly and clearly as you are that that starts with a ceasefire, an immediate and permanent ceasefire. That is the only place that it can start. It starts with ending the bombing and the killing and starvation of Gaza. It starts with President Biden cutting off the flow of weapons and money to what is a fascist Netanyahu government.
That's right.
That is how we save millions and millions and millions of lives in Gaza, over half of which are children under the age of 18. That is how we get all of the hostages released, whether Israeli or Palestinian. That is how we begin to chart a new course to put us on a path towards a democracy that centers the equal rights and humanity and dignity of all. And so I think about the power of this 24-hour action, but how it is just a mere reflection of what we are feeling every hour of every single day. And that is pain, and that is fear, and that is devastation. But it's also hope and determination and just fucking doggedness to say that we will continue to fight for our neighbors here and abroad until we achieve our goal, until we save lives, until we do what is necessary, until we get a ceasefire. So thank you, I love you, and I will be here with all of y'all each and every day.
Thank you. Again, I would like to thank all of the council members that had the courage to come out here today, wanted to call for a ceasefire and to stand in solidarity with all of us here and the people of Palestine. So next, I would like to bring up our next speaker, who is Audrey Sassoon from Jews for Racial and Economic Justice. Jay French.
Jay French in the house. Good morning. I actually want to start by expressing my love and solidarity to our Palestinian siblings. And I want to thank our council members who've so bravely spoken out. My own representative, thank you, Councilmember Joseph, and to everyone who's been coming out. Good morning. My name is Audrey Sasson. I'm a Mizrahi Jew. I'm gonna read because I'm very emotional. I'm a Mizrahi Jew of Syrian, Lebanese, and Egyptian descent, and I'm the executive director of Jews for Racial and Economic Justice. I'm here today representing our 6,000 dues-paying members to say that we need an immediate, permanent ceasefire, and we needed it yesterday.
Yes.
We needed it months ago. We needed it to save the lives of tens of thousands of Palestinians who've already succumbed to Israel's brutal U.S.-backed bombing campaign. And we need it to save hundreds of thousands of lives that still hang in the balance. As an organization primarily focused on local New York City issues, I'm also here to say that what happens in Israel and Palestine is also local. It impacts our local communities, our organizing, and our politics. Like many people, I have loved ones with friends and family in Israel and Palestine. And so what happens over there actually is deeply personal to me, like it is for many New Yorkers. But regardless of that personal connection, all New Yorkers, all of us, all of you here, live and pay taxes in the United States, taxes our government uses to provide over $3 billion in annual military aid to Israel. You all know the number. And that is before the additional billions we send to fund Israel's current assaults, genocidal assault on Gaza.
That ain't right.
More specifically, our tax dollars in New York City make up $120 million of that annual aid to Israel, specific to New York. That makes us complicit, and it's what compels many of us to action day in and day out. And as organizers working on a range of issues impacting New Yorkers' daily lives, we also know that money could go a hell of a long way towards funding programs that create actual community safety, as we've heard, like guaranteed housing, healthcare, and the other resources we so desperately need right here in New York City.
That's right.
Add to this the fact that Israel's war machine has created ripple effects in our own backyard, whether it's the rise in hate violence, the silencing, doxing, and defunding of individuals and organizations focused on Palestinian solidarity, or the extraordinary sums poured into primary challenges to unseat progressive elected officials for having the audacity to speak up for Palestinian rights. Ain't right. I know I need to wrap up. I want to say one more thing.
Your thing, Audrey.
All right. So yes, it's a local issue. But here's the thing. As we've heard, you do not have to be Arab, Muslim, Palestinian, or in my case, in the case of our members, Jews who say no, to speak out against an unfolding genocide.
That's right.
You simply need to be a human being who is paying attention.
That's right.
The impunity within which Israel is operating and the scale of the destruction and carnage tells us everything we need to know. Israel's bombardment has nothing to do with guaranteeing anyone's safety, including that of the Israeli hostages who remain, whose lives also hang in the balance. At JFRED, our vision of safety goes beyond militarism and ethno-nationalism. It inspires us to organize locally with our neighbors across difference for real democracy and the collective liberation of all people. But as we build that future, we refuse to take our eyes off of Gaza, and we will not be silent.
That's right.
We organize to demand a ceasefire because it's personal, because it's as much a local issue as an international one, and most of all because we are human beings witnessing an unfolding genocide. As a Jewish New Yorker and a human being, I say not with my tax dollars and not in my name. Calling for a ceasefire is the bare minimum. We are proud to stand here today with partner organizations to send the loudest possible unified message that New York City demands a ceasefire now.
Ceasefire now!
Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now!
I'd like to introduce our next speaker, who is Karun Malik from Healthcare Workers for Palestine.
You got it. Good morning, everyone. I'm a medical student graduating soon with my medical degree, and I'm here to represent the New York City chapter for Healthcare Workers for Palestine. And we are the full spectrum of your clinical care team. It's not just nurses or doctors. We have NPs, PAs, all of our allied health professionals, EMS workers. We are gathered, more than 600 of us, and we take a grassroots and labor approach to really advocate for our brothers and sisters in Palestine. I see activism as a profound public health practice, and I'm only here to contextualize the catastrophic damage and inhumane acts and siege enacted on the Gaza health system. Many of us saw firsthand how the COVID-19 pandemic ravaged our nation. More than 1 million people have died and nothing was really done about it. But there's always money for war. There's always money for genocide. We didn't have protective gear. Doctors died. That all could have been prevented if we as a country value healthcare and rehabilitating our society. The medical infrastructure in Gaza has collapsed. In November, the only cancer hospital was bombed and demolished. Women are laboring 150 a day and NICU babies are dying. Children as young as 5 and 6 are dying from heart attacks because their hearts can't handle the stress. The famine will prevent anyone who has survived this from living a full life, whether as disabled amputees and have chronic wound issues because they just do not have food. We see our colleagues and patients trying to navigate a medical system here laden with Islamophobia and clear anti-Palestinian sentiment. I'm humbled by the strength and faith of the people of Palestine in the diaspora and here. And we see ourselves in the shoes of our sisters and brothers and uncles and aunties that are healthcare workers in Gaza who have nothing but are doing everything. We echo their love call to demand an end to this genocide so that remaining patients can have rest and heal. And we acknowledge that our work doesn't end at ceasefire. We have to imagine that our actions in solidarity, what they will look like once ceasefire happens, how we will help rebuild and rehabilitate Gaza. So we demand an immediate ceasefire, unlimited aid, and we hope to see a free Palestine. Thank you.
Free Palestine!
Thank you so much. Give it up for Karen Malik, Healthcare Workers for Palestine. All right, folks, we know this is a somber event, as it should be, but let's get some energy in this space. What do we want?
Ceasefire!
When do we want it?
Now!
Woo! What do we want?
Ceasefire!
When do we want it?
Now!
Thank you. Our next speaker that I'm happy to introduce is Baron Carroll from CARE. And New York City for Ceasefire is an interfaith movement, and we're incredibly happy to have them here. Give it up for Baron.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Burhan Carroll. I'm an attorney at CARE New York, the Council on American Islamic Relations. And I'm here standing for Gaza. CARE New York is here standing with our coalition partners. It's our duty as an Islamic organization to speak truth to power. Our community demands it. Our conscience demands it. We all bear witness to genocide. New York government hopes that we will simply go away, that the NYPD can use the SRG to brutalize and arrest us, that the Israel lobby can scare us into silence. But we know better than them. The streets of New York are on fire, the same as they were in October. It will take more than a little rain to put that out.
That's right.
We will be here for 24 hours. We will be here until Palestine is free, inshallah.
That's right.
I'm sure that Mayor Adams will dismiss us as haters. That's how he responds to all of his critics. But we know where the hate really lies. It lies with New York electeds who have not signed on to permanent ceasefire now.
That's right.
Our message is clear. You are complicit in genocide.
You are.
Stand with us, your fellow New Yorkers, on the right side of history. Jazakallahu khairan. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I would like to introduce our next speaker, who is Rabbi Abba Stein, who is from Rabbi for Ceasefire.
Just want to breathe. My name is Abby Stein. I'm a lifelong New Yorker. I'm a fifth-generation New Yorker. I will tell you later why I'm saying that. And I'm a rabbi for Ceasefire. Let me go back for a second. Do I need to freeze the mic for this to work? Okay, never mind. I will just scream. Okay. Okay. Amazing. When I say I'm a fifth-generation New Yorker, I'm also the first generation that was born here. Bear with me for a second, this is going to make sense. My great-grandparents came from Ukraine after the Holocaust. My great-great-great-grandparents came from the same area after the Holocaust. My grandmother and my dad came from Jerusalem in 1967. I'm the fifth generation living here, but all my previous generation came here as refugees, escaping in one way or another violence and war. One of the privileges that they had is that they found a city that at least partially, at least the city government, at least pretended to welcome them. I'm not going to say there were no issues. There always were. Right now, New York City, we're not doing a good job.
No.
We're not doing a good job welcoming refugees, and we're not sending a great message. There are currently 50,000 Palestinians living in New York City. Many of them I'm privileged to call my friends. I know that I am not feeling safe here, in the city that has the largest Jewish population in the world, simply for being part of a group that has been screaming since October 8th that this needs to end. I can only imagine what our Palestinian siblings and Muslim siblings are feeling with what the city has done and not done.
Yeah.
A few months ago by now, a group of us, Rabbis for Ceasefire, went to the UN. A lot of you might have witnessed that part because we got detained and it was very interesting. But the part that some people missed was that a few days later, some of us met with the UN Secretary General. New York City is home to the United Nations. We are home to one of the most diverse communities in the world. I am here as a New Yorker, as the child of refugees, to beg my city council, not the ones that are here, all of you are doing amazing and I'm so proud of you, but everyone else, to end this.
Yeah.
I'm going to wrap up, but I want to say one final thing. Our lead organizer for Rabbis of Ceasefire says that we always need to use some Hebrew words. So I want to say one final thing. We're coming up in a few weeks on the holiday of Purim. If you don't know anything, look up the book of Esther. We'll give you some details. But one of the lines there that I really like is Kiyam Hachesh Tachrishi Ba'et Hazot Revach V'Hatzala Yamot LaYehudim Mimakom Acher. If you are going to be quiet in the face of tyranny, I want you to know that the people who are being persecuted at the end of the day are going to survive. We're going to have a lot of loss, but they're going to be okay. But you, all of those in that building who couldn't be bothered to be here or couldn't be bothered to stop the millions of dollars that we're sending to Israel, I don't know if you are going to survive, because New York City as a country, sorry. Not a bad thing. Yes, New York City as a city is going to keep fighting for peace. We're going to keep fighting as Jews, as New Yorkers, for our Palestinian siblings.
Woo!
And we're not going to stop. We're not going to be quiet. So you either speak up, join us, or go away. Thank you all so much.
Free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Ceasefire now!
Ceasefire now!
Ceasefire now!
Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now!
Thank you so much. Give it up for Rabbi Abby Stein, please. Our next speaker is Mohammed Okay, our Palestinian faith leader. Mohammed?
Yes.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Mohammed Oka. I am a lifelong New Yorker, born and raised here, lived my whole life here. I am also a Palestinian American. And I wanted to mention a few things today. I'm proud that I get to stand and am given this microphone to speak alongside the leaders of this community when it comes to being an activist, to our leadership, to our politicians. And my point of being here today is to stand and say that it is enough that our politicians cannot even utter the word ceasefire. They cannot utter the word genocide. They cannot utter the word slaughter. They cannot utter the word that there is starvation happening in Palestine, in Gaza, where my family is. They refuse to mention that. And that is our problem. And keep in mind, when they speak on the news, they mention men, they mention women, they mention children, they mention the elderly. But if I was in Palestine and I was slaughtered, nobody would ever mention me. That's right. Because they look at men, Palestinian men, in a different light. So if I were to be slaughtered, an American, a taxpayer, a doctor from New York, nobody would mention me.
That ain't right.
Nobody would speak up. And I'm here to say that everybody is waking up. there are a few flashpoints in history, and one of the flashpoints is that our communities have been very silent when it comes to voting. And as they showed us in Michigan, and they will show us soon in New York, that nobody is silent anymore. So if our politicians don't want to speak on our behalf, then we will vote them out, and we will get politicians that will speak on our behalf. There was a quote, and this really came to mind when I was preparing for this, which is by Martin Niemöller. And he said, he survived the Holocaust, and this quote is taken from the Holocaust Museum. And he said, first they came for the socialists, and I did not speak up. And then they came for the Unionists, and I stayed quiet, I did not speak up. And then they came for the Jews, and nobody spoke up. And then they came for me, but there was nobody left to speak up. And we refuse to be in that position. They said never again, and now is the time to prove never again. So the same way that they voted and they took out the politicians that do not speak on your behalf, this coming election, that is our power. We pay our taxes. They send more bombs for Israel to drop on helpless Palestinians than was dropped in the entirety of World War II on Nazi Germany.
Shame! Shame!
They dropped more on Gaza than they did in Hiroshima.
Shame!
That's your tax money.
Shame!
It's like, my favorite example is when I say, you pay your mortgage or your rent, and you let somebody else make the rules in your house. That doesn't work. We pay our tax dollars, and if our politicians are not for a ceasefire and are not going to speak our voice, then we need new politicians.
Yeah.
Ceasefire now!
Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now!
Government's live, families are dying.
New York City for
Ceasefire now!
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 Thank you. I'd like to bring up another speaker, who is Najla Kass from Mamas for a Free Palestine.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning. Morning.
Can everybody hear me back there?
Make some noise!
Woo! First, I want to start off by saying, dear Aaron Bushnell family, until I saw your son on fire, I believed that our hearts were too broken to grieve. I regret your loss. I want people to love Palestine instead of dying for it.
Right.
I wish you had known Gaza prior to the genocide, a region of unwavering love and hope for life. It's a killing field now. During these hard times, I wish you strength and patience. May your son rest in peace, and may his sacrifice, as well as yours, not be in vain.
Amen.
Amen. My name is Najla Kass, proud Palestinian from Gaza. I'm honored to be here with you all, to be able to add my voice to our collective call for an immediate and permanent ceasefire in Palestine. It has been 100+ days of constant bombardment, displacement, and ethnic cleansing.
That ain't right.
100+ days of us calling for an immediate and permanent ceasefire.
Shame.
Every 4 minutes, a Palestinian is killed.
Shame.
When will it be enough? rather than us using important resources to bring an end to the killing. Our leaders are funding and providing other material support to the genocide of the Palestinians with our tax dollars.
That ain't right.
Our country leaders refuse to lift a finger to stop the starvation, siege, and blockade of an entire population. But then proudly provide arms to Israel as it conducts its genocide. They happily coordinate the bombing of Yemen, a country that's hundreds miles away from Gaza, so that our packages can show up on time. Enough is enough. This isn't just a far-off international crisis for us. It's an issue that affects us directly here and now. The decisions made by our leaders impact our city, our communities, and our neighbors. We cannot and will not let the U.S. and Israel get away with this genocide. We demand transparency, accountability, and a revelation of our nation's position in the face of such grave humanitarian crisis. We demand our taxpayer money to be used for the betterment of humanity, not to fund massacres, extermination, and displacement of an entire population. We demand an immediate and permanent ceasefire, not only for the month of Ramadan. We will not give up for Palestine. I will continue using my voice until my uncle is out of that tent in Rafah. I will continue to use my voice until my cousin and my aunts have a proper meal every single day, like we do here in the States. Majority of us, minority of us. Thank you.
I want to introduce the next speaker. Could we have Tariq Ismail, who is a CUNY law professor?
Hey y'all. First and foremost, I want to give thanks to the folks who brought this event together. I know hours and hours of labor went into this, and at least 24 hours more of labor will go into it after we're done. A few weeks ago, it snowed in New York City. School wasn't canceled. It was moved online. I'm sure a lot of us, as parents, were annoyed. How are we supposed to work and manage school at the same damn time? There was a glitch in the online system that morning, and students had a hard time logging onto class. One member of the city council told a reporter that you could hear the collective groans of millions of parents at that moment. He said they should have just canceled school. Well, as an educator, I have news for the city council. School is canceled in Gaza.
Yeah, that ain't right.
Not because of snow falling from the sky, but because of bombs falling from the sky that we pay for with every check that we put in the bank. Nearly 1 million children under the age of 18 have missed an entire year of school. And that's to say nothing of their brothers and sisters who have missed college classes as well. School is canceled not because it was moved online, but because nearly 400 elementary and high schools have been bombed by the Israeli military. Many of those schools, UNRWA schools, UN schools that were used as shelter by families when they were being bombed.
That ain't right.
Within the first 100 days of this 145-day genocide, Israel had destroyed every university in the Gaza Strip.
That ain't right.
There is no school in Gaza. Indeed, there are no schools in Gaza. So while it's beyond time to call for a ceasefire, it is time to call for an immediate and permanent ceasefire now. Let's say that together. Let's say it slowly first. Ceasefire now. 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 An entire generation of students have been sent back a year's worth of education. Think about what it will mean for those students at the moment that there's a ceasefire. To go back to their schoolyards where there are no schools. There will be no place to learn. Think about what it will mean to go back to their classrooms and look to their left or their right and find that their classmates are dead. That their classmates have been murdered. Think about what it will mean for them going to college and finding, in fact, that their professors are gone, murdered. Think about what it will mean for the students who have lost parents, 17,000 children, orphaned. Think about what it will mean for the parents who will not have students left to send to school. So it's quite a luxury to worry about a snow day here in New York. It's quite a luxury to worry about a glitch that delays your kid going to school by remote class. It's time to think about our responsibility as global citizens, what it means for those students who do not have a school to go to, and indeed, schools that don't have students to attend them anymore. It's time for our leaders, if they are our leaders, to call for a ceasefire now. And I want to say it one more time, slowly, and let's make it loud so they can hear us there. Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now!
We're incredibly excited to be joined by more council members. I'd like to bring up council members Sandy Nurse and Jennifer Gutierrez.
Good afternoon, everyone. Or morning, I'm not sure. My name is Sandy Nurse. I represent the 37 council districts. I see my other colleague, Alexa Viles. Oh, you were here already? Okay. We rolled together. Look, I think, one, I'm really grateful for everybody who put this together. Okay. And who really put this on and is out here. And everybody who's out here, who's going to hold space for 24 hours reading the names out here. Just thank you for putting it together. Myself, my two colleagues here, and some others, we've been calling for a ceasefire for months now. As the bare minimum we could do to articulate that the killing of women and children and families just it's intolerable. It's unacceptable, and it's not going to get us anywhere. And this isn't just any city. This is New York City.
That's right.
And we are a city of the world. We are a world of worlds here. Everything that happens at every corner of this earth impacts our communities, our people here, our family members, our siblings who are out in the world and here. And so it is our responsibility and our obligation, at a minimum, just to say that a secession of military action, leveling of neighborhoods, leveling of civic and social infrastructure that allows communities and people to thrive and survive and just live is not a pathway that we can accept for any outcome.
That's right.
So, you know, I don't really have much to say because it just seems so stupid that we have to even do this and we have to even put time and energy towards this. And I'm really hoping that the rest of my colleagues can find the courage and can step up and step out and just say the bare minimum, which is the ceasefire now. So thank you all for being here.
No, it's okay. I'll just add that I am one of a few members that has been calling for a ceasefire. I'm also one of a group of council members that has been called anti-Semitic repeatedly, and as someone that grew up here and, like Sandy said, loves that she's from a city that is the world city, it's incredibly hurtful to think that it is radical to call for an end to violence, to think that it is radical to call for an end to occupation, to think that it is radical to call for no more money to fund war. It's not radical, y'all. I can sleep at night.
That's right.
But I'm encouraged by all of you here and know that we all have each other's personal safety when we talk about these things, when we kind of stretch our necks out in this way. But for all of us, it's a matter of, yes, life and death. It is a matter of people. It is a matter of right and wrong. And calling for a ceasefire is 100% right. And I just want to applaud all of you that have held us accountable, that have been showing up to various offices, asking their various representatives to join us in this call for a ceasefire, and hope that you continue to find the courage and the strength to do so. Because until we get there, we have a lot of work to do, and more stakeholders and leaders need to feel what we feel right now. So thank you all so much, and thank you to the organizers again for hosting this vigil today. Mucha suerte a todos. Thank you, guys.
Let's give it up for Councilmember Gutierrez and Nurse. Thank you, folks. I'm also very excited to bring up our next speaker, Jumani Williams, public advocate.
Peace and blessings, love and light to everyone. I'm going to tell you, I try to say the same things no matter what crowd I'm in, and I'm going to do the same here. This is a really painful time for me and for so many people. Whether I'm in synagogues and mosques, people are in pain, but for some reason I feel some people's pain are not being lifted up.
That ain't right.
And that's a problem. And I will say, on October 7th, many people of good conscience admonished what happened and started saying, bring the hostages home. People of good conscience, I believe that was the right thing to do. It is going on 5 months. Tens of thousands of people have died. People are starving. Almost an entire country has been razed. Settlers are killing Palestinians and taking their homes. And we have to plead for the same people of good conscience to simply say that should cease. The very same people of good conscience who are asking for hostages to come home, some of whom have been killed because of what's going on, who would admonish the actions on October 7th, how can you not call for a ceasefire 5 months into it? It's long past due. History is watching us. They really are. I believe, and it should not be revolutionary to believe, that a Palestinian life is just as valuable as an Israeli life. How is that something revolutionary to say? How could ceasefire be anything but calling for people to stop dying and stop starving? It's frustrating that people can say that pro-Israel and no one says it's anti-Islamophobic. But as soon as someone says they're pro-Palestine, especially if it's their homeland, where they come from, all of a sudden they're anti-Semitic. That can't be. We have to stop. We have to stop. We have to speak about a shared humanity.
That's right.
And I always say I am a leader in New York City. I cannot solve the crisis that's going there. I don't know how. It's centuries old. But I do know as leaders of New York City, we should be lifting up all of the pain that is occurring wherever I go, and not just one side of the pain. We have to do it. That's something that we can do, and we must do. I gotta tell you, ceasefire should not be radical. It should not be. Literally tonight, more people are gonna die. Tonight, children might die. Children and babies right now. I have to lift up the Sudan. I have to lift up Congo, because there should be ceasefires there as well.
That's right.
I have to lift that up. And I have to tell you, there was one ceasefire message in the United Nations that was on this, and the United States was the sole person to vote no.
Shame.
We have to do better. We have to have the courage of shared humanity. We just must. History is watching us. And it shouldn't be we're saying one thing with our lips and doing something else with our actions. Please, please. Saying that you want to bring the hostages home and you want a ceasefire should not be comparative to one another. They should not be, because they're about a shared humanity. Leaders of New York City, step up. Speak about what's happening, what you're seeing. I no longer go through my social media. I can't take it anymore. Think about your children. Think about your family. This is unacceptable. And to hear leaders in Israel saying they're happy about what's going on, come on. Please stop saying that folks are anti-anything except people dying and people starving. And that should cease. And it should cease now. Stop making something anti that is not. Please. Thank you for doing a vigil. Thank you for remembering the people who are dying. And I'm so sorry that we're going to have to add unto that name tonight. Peace and blessings. God bless.
Before I bring up our last speaker, I want to make sure y'all are still with me. Are you with me? Should we remember our chants, everybody? Yes. Wonderful. So let's start. What do we want?
Ceasefire.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Ceasefire.
When do we want it?
Now.
NYC for?
Ceasefire. Ceasefire.
Brooklyn says?
Ceasefire now.
Queens says?
Ceasefire now.
The Bronx says?
Ceasefire now.
Manhattan says?
Ceasefire now.
Staten Island says?
Ceasefire now.
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine.
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine.
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine.
Thank you for your energy. Thank you for being here. Our final speaker is Leon Falahan from the People's Forum. Leon.
2 days ago, U.S. Airman Aaron Bushnell set himself on fire in a clear act of protest because he could no longer live with the fact that his life was being used to carry out a genocide in Palestine. Aaron Bushnell had clarity about the role that the United States plays in the mass murder, ethnic cleansing, mass starvation, and brutal massacre of the Palestinian people. And as much as the capitalist media and the mayor's office would like to deny it, the people of New York also have this clarity. The streets of New York City have been filled every single day for over 4 months, calling for an end to the genocide and actually for an end to the occupation. Any human being with a conscience, any human being that feels when faced with a genocide, and there's no excuse because we are witnessing it every single day, they do not hesitate to stand on the right side. Many of us in New York City, including the 50,000 Palestinians, the many more Arabs, Muslims, and people who come from oppressed nations across the world, and people who stand with justice, already knew about the genocidal nature of the Israeli project for over 75 years. This is not something new. But now it is being live streamed. And now there is no longer an excuse. Those of us who already knew were on the streets on October 8th. We said we stand with the Palestinian people. We said that in the face of a genocide, in the face of colonization, people have the right to resist. We were the conscience of New York City. And the mayor's office responded with the most racist and violent tropes to demonize and fearmonger. He tried to use the horrific experience that New Yorkers experienced in 9/11 and then to invoke the mass fear-mongering, Islamophobia, and racism to create the same atmosphere that people of New York felt in 2001.
Shame.
He called us terrorists.
Shame.
He told the people of New York to stay home. He said that we were going to carry out terrorist attacks. He put every single police officer that owns a uniform, over 36,000 people, on the streets. And instead, 1 week later, over 20,000 people were in Times Square calling for a free Palestine. If anything, this shows that Eric Adams, the government of New York, the government of the United States, are completely out of touch with their own ability to control the opinion, public opinion of this country.
That's right.
I want to repeat that the people of New York are the conscience of the United States. The city of New York has continued to unleash the most repressive elements of their institutions on the movement for Palestine. Now every single protest is met with police violence.
That ain't right.
Young people, women, elderly people are brutalized by the police because they dare to stand up against genocide. At this point, a ceasefire resolution is the bare minimum, and it is way too late. A ceasefire is the first thing that we are asking for. But now there is no excuse to not understand that a ceasefire is only the first step. And if we want to prevent the further genocide of not only the Palestinian people, but the people of the world across the region, the millions of Iraqis, the millions of people in Syria, the millions of people across the world who have been victims of US-backed or engineered wars. No longer do we want to see this happening. And so we understand that the first demand is a ceasefire. If New York City, the bank account of the Zionist occupation, the place where the funding comes from individuals, from banks, from institutions, funds settlements, funds occupation forces. If New York City can call for a ceasefire, that is the first step. The second step is to end all U.S. aid to the Zionist occupation. And we will continue a message to Eric Adams, to the city, to the White House, is that we will continue to build the movement because we will not be satisfied with just a ceasefire. Nor are we deceived by Biden's attempts to masquerade a temporary truce as a ceasefire. We do not want a temporary truce. We already saw what a truce looks like. It looks like nothing. They continue to kill. We want a permanent ceasefire. We want the return of the over 8,000 Palestinian men, women, and children who are being held hostage illegally in Israeli prisons. in the most inhumane conditions to be released. We want an end to the siege on Gaza. We want the Palestinian people to be able to build in their own self-determination. We want an end to the occupation. And this is just the beginning. The city of New York should be thanking us for being the conscience of the city when they could not. And now the next step is for them to join us. So we'll end now with just a call, a thank you to everyone who has been putting together this vigil, who has been bringing the names of our martyrs right to the doors of the New York City government, and who are making sure that no one goes without hearing their responsibility, their task, their duty in the face of the mass extermination of the beautiful and dignified Palestinian people. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Round of applause for Leon. We want to first and foremost thank all of the city council members, speakers, endorsing organizations, and supporters who have shown up today to join us in calling for a permanent and immediate ceasefire in Gaza. Thank you. Thank you to all of the media and those participating online for joining us as well. If the city council listens to anyone, they should listen to the over 99, that's right, 99 multiracial, multi-ethnic, and interfaith organizations across all boroughs who endorsed the call for a New York City ceasefire. Your constituents have made it clear. Time is up. We need all of you to speak out now against warfare and towards ending the suffering of almost 2 million people in Gaza. We encourage everyone here at the press conference to attend the remaining 23 hours of our vigil, where we will have endorsing organizations read the names of the known Palestinians martyred in the genocide. We are making the direct connection between the deaths and the culpability of U.S. and New York City tax dollars and funds sent to Israeli military funding. We will further have political education teach-ins, additional speakers, and resistance artists sharing their response to the genocide. We are now open for questions. All press questions can be directed to Azadi and Varsha, coordinators of the New York City for Ceasefire Comms team. They can be found by raise your hands, please. Thank you. If you have questions, please direct it to them. At this time, we will now begin our procession to the location where the remaining 23 hours of our vigil will take place. The procession will begin here and go around the park to the plaza on Center Street, led by Public Advocate Jamani Williams. We encourage all elected officials still here and faith leaders to join Jamani at the front of the procession as we walk in solidarity with one another, and that will be to the right of me. Thank you everyone for attending, and let's see you at the next 23 hours.
Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now!
We're marching. One, okay. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1.
What's going on with the other band over here? What's going on with our band? Okay, where's Gavin?
Okay, if we have any other elected or faith leaders, please join the public advocating council members to have a seat here at the front.
Come on.
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine! Ceasefire! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Ceasefire! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Ceasefire! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Ceasefire! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Ceasefire! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Ceasefire! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Ceasefire! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Ceasefire! When do we want it? Now! New York City for ceasefire 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 now!
I'm good. Thank you so much. Thank you.
New York City for ceasefire now! 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 Free Palestine! 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 Ceasefire! Now! Ceasefire! Now! Ceasefire! Now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now!